There are moments in life when all it takes is a second glance, a delayed step, or locking eyes with the wrong person, and suddenly you've stepped into a nightmare no one can pull you out of. Tonight's 4 stories are not fiction. They happen to ordinary people in situations that seemed harmless, until the ending shattered every boundary of logic. If you're listening to this at night, make sure every door is locked, the hallway lights are still on, and that you are truly alone in the room. Story 1. The Ghost of the Royal Hawaiian Motel. Have you ever stepped into a place and immediately felt you weren't supposed to be there? I had a night like that, and to this day I still don't know if what I saw was a person or something far worse. I'm an urban explorer, the kind who wanders through abandoned places with nothing but a flashlight and a questionable sense of curiosity. That night I visited a location well known among the horror hunting community, the Royal Hawaiian Motel in Baker, California. It had been abandoned for over a decade. No security, no fence. Just cross the road and you were in. I went alone like I always do. Small LED flashlight in hand, backpack on my shoulder, and just enough recklessness in my blood to make it interesting. The desert wind howled through broken glass as I arrived. The entire property was eerily silent. I passed the drained swimming pool, now covered in graffiti from the cracked tiles to the crumbling edges. Looking up at the second floor, I saw doors hanging half open, like someone had just stepped out minutes before. I started on the ground floor. Room after room was filled with dust trash and spray-painted filth. A few filthy mattresses, a busted dresser. The air reeked of rot and rust. I wondered if anyone had squatted there recently. And then, I heard it. A whisper. Soft, feminine, coming from somewhere in the dark. I froze. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. Something deep inside told me to hide. I turned off my flashlight and slipped into another room. Waited. 30 seconds. A minute. Nothing. I turned the light back on. And as I made my way toward the stairs, heading to the upper level, I heard it. Thud. A heavy noise right above me. I swallowed hard and climbed the creaking stairs, each step screaming beneath my feet. The second floor hallway was pitch black. The doors creaked open and shut with the breeze. Then I heard it again. Thud, thud. Steady, repetitive, like someone was banging their head against the wall. I approached a room with the door slightly ajar, turned off my flashlight, and said aloud, "I'm just an explorer. I mean no harm." No answer. I leaned in, peeking into the dark. Nothing. Then I switched the flashlight back on, pointing it at the floor first, and slowly panning upward. 2 bare feet, pale, motionless, walking toward me fast. I instinctively raised the light, and what I saw, I'll never forget. A woman. Forehead soaked in blood, mouth wide open, filled with some thick yellow fluid, eyes bulging empty and lifeless. I turned and bolted. Behind me, a scream tore through the silence, high-pitched, distorted, like her throat was shredding as she chased me. I sprinted down the stairs, slipping over dust and shards of glass, slamming into walls but never stopping. Only when I saw my car did I dare look back. No one. I drove away, shaking, heart pounding out of my chest. I called my friend George, another explorer like me. When I told him what happened, he said something that made my blood run cold. "You think that banging sound was her head hitting the wall?" I couldn't sleep that night. And yes, I called the non-emergency police line, pretending I'd heard this from someone else. But even now, I don't know who or what she was, why she was there, and what nightmare she came from. I never went back to the Royal Hawaiian, but every night I closed my eyes, I still hear bare feet on old tile floors, and a whisper, waiting in the dark. Story 2. The Screams Beneath Bryce. I never thought a teenage thrill-seeking trip would turn into something this dark. That year, my parents were away prepping for our move, so I invited my best friend and 2 cousins on a late-night adventure to a place rumored to be haunted, the Bryce Psychiatric Hospital. We left at 11 p.m. and arrived around 2:30 in the morning. The drive was long through foggy, forested back roads that seemed to grow darker by the mile. When the car finally stopped at the dirt path leading to the hospital, a strange unease washed over me. But youth has a way of putting recklessness before fear. The building emerged like a decaying giant, its structure choked by vines and roots. An old stone fountain sat in the courtyard covered in moss. The entire scene was frozen in silence, no insects, no wind. Like the world itself was holding its breath. Inside, we found the usual graffiti pentagrams, strange scratch marks along the walls. At one point, we climbed up to the roof, and that's when we saw it. A flash of light, someone's phone, flickering for a split second in the courtyard below. We called out. No response. Just silence. I stepped away from the group to check out a nearby room. As I scanned the walls, I heard faint clinking like someone was tossing pebbles at the glass. But when I turned, everything was still. That's when we made the mistake of heading to the basement. The stairs were crumbling thick with dust. By the time we reached the bottom, we had to stop to catch our breath. And then a voice. From the far corner of the dark. A man sat hunched against the wall, facing away from us. One of my cousins shined his flashlight, and when the beam hit his face, I wish I had never seen it. Eyes rolled back white, face blank. Then he screamed. A deep, guttural scream that tore through the silence like claws through skin, and he charged straight at us. We ran. No direction. No idea where the exit was. Just crashing through the black forest in blind terror. Branches tore at our skin. Breath burned in our lungs. Just as we thought we'd escaped, we heard something rustling in the brush, and a rock slammed into my friend's shoulder. He was back, just a few feet away. We screamed and sprinted toward the car. As the headlights turned on, we saw him, covered in blood, holding a glass bottle running full speed toward us. We barely got the doors locked before he slammed into the window, howling like a wild animal backed into a corner. We drove. The entire ride home, no one said a word. I've never shaken like that before, not because of him, but because of the thought, how many more like him are still down there beneath Bryce? Story 3. The Smile Upstairs. Some fears don't come from blood or screams, but from a silent smile, one that lasts a little too long in the wrong place at the wrong time. My younger brother Cole and I are into abandoned places. Last summer, we heard about an old house deep in the Georgia woods. It wasn't on any map, far from any highway. Locals called it by a chilling name, the Look-Back House. When we got there, it appeared like something the forest had forgotten. An old 2-story cabin, half its roof caved in. Windows shattered, the front door swinging lazily, as if it had never quite closed. We stepped inside. The air was thick with dust, rot, and mildew. On the dining table, a deck of cards still sat mid-game. A chair lay tipped over beside it as if someone had left suddenly and never returned. We split up to film some TikToks. I took the stairs first. Halfway up, I heard footsteps behind me. Figured Cole was following, so I turned around. No one. When I turned back to face the stairs, she was there. A woman, standing at the top. Long black hair, wearing a faded gray dress, her face hidden beneath a backlight from the window behind her. She stood perfectly still, and then She smiled. Too wide. Too still. Too long. I couldn't move. My throat was dry. My legs frozen. She turned and walked down the hallway without a sound. I backed down a few steps. "Cole," I shouted. No answer. I pulled out my phone and got a message. "I'm on the back porch. There's a creepy bathtub here." "Did you go upstairs?" I froze. If Cole was outside, who had I just seen? And yet for some reason I kept going. Curiosity, heavier than fear. The upstairs hall had 3 rooms. As I approached the first door, it slowly creaked open, on its own. I raised my flashlight. Inside, she was sitting on the floor facing away, hair draped over her shoulders. Then she whispered soft, barely audible, "Do you want to see what's behind me?" I stood still, like I was under a spell. Her arm began to rise slowly, reaching behind her back. And just then, I heard footsteps pounding on the stairs. Cole, shouting my name. It snapped me out of it. I turned and ran. We didn't stop. We didn't look back. We ran straight to the car. Once we hit the highway, I finally caught my breath. Cole asked, "Dude, why is your face so pale?" I didn't answer. But later that night, when I reviewed the footage from my chest-mounted GoPro, I saw the moment me standing in the doorway staring at her. And here's the thing, I backed away. I ran. But on camera, she never moved, never stood, never chased. Only the door behind her slowly opened. Inside was total darkness. But if you squint, I swear you can see 2 small hands gripping the edge, waiting for me to look back. Story 4. The One Who Lives in the Dark. Back in college, I was always the one leading our trips into abandoned places. One time, 3 classmates and I heard a story about an old house in the hills left untouched for over 15 years. The strange part, everything inside was still there, furniture, belongings, even food in the fridge, as if the owners had just vanished. We didn't need more convincing. That night, the fog was thick. Our headlights barely cut through the mist as we turned onto the narrow dirt road. The house stood at the end, a 2-story relic with a slanted roof. The front door was barely hanging onto its hinges, but intact. As soon as we stepped inside, the first thing we noticed was silence. No wind, no bugs. It felt like the house was listening. Dust coated everything, but something didn't feel right. The sofa had a deep indent, like someone had just been sitting there. And on the dining table, a glass of water still half full. We joked it was haunted. Then we split up. David and I headed upstairs. The others went down to the basement. Upstairs was pitch black. Our flashlights barely pierced the hallway. I noticed a bedroom door slightly open. Inside was a neatly made bed, and a photo on the desk, a family portrait. Old, but not faded. David opened the closet, then stopped cold. "Someone was just here," he whispered. I followed his gaze. Inside the closet, a pair of muddy shoes, still wet. Then a loud bang from the basement, followed by frantic footsteps. We ran down and found Alex and Danny at the bottom of the stairs, faces pale. "There's someone down there," Alex panted. We heard something crawling under the floor, and then we saw a shadow run across the living room. We didn't hesitate. It was time to leave. But when we got back to the living room to grab our bags, we all froze. The fridge was wide open, and on the table a slice of bread, still warm. None of us spoke. We sprinted for the car. As the engine roared to life, I looked into the rear-view mirror, and in the second-floor window, someone was standing there, a shadowy figure, one hand pressed against the glass. But what kept me awake for nights wasn't that moment. It was what David told me back at the dorm. "Remember the family photo in the bedroom?" I nodded. He said, "When I opened the closet, I looked back at that photo again. There was someone else in it. Someone standing behind the family dressed in black, face hidden. But when I looked a third time, he was gone. 4 voices, 4 survival stories, and 4 experiences they swear they'll never repeat again. But there's one thing they all had in common. The darkness was always one step ahead. It hid in the parking lot behind the basement door, in the corner of an old family photo, or just beneath the twisted smile of a stranger. Thank you for watching until the end. If you're still awake, tell me which story chilled you the most. And before you go to sleep, close your window, because someone might be watching.